G'day, Paul from Small Crown Productions here, and welcome to the Business of Art. On this channel, I dig into all of the things that we need to help us build a business around our creative work. So tips, tools, strategies, interviews, mindset, whatever I can do to help share knowledge from people who know what they're talking about so that we can do business better and make money from our creative work. So if that is something you are interested in, please consider subscribing. This video is one in a series of over 15 videos relating to tax and finance for creative people in Australia. So this is specific to Australia. It is also general advice. Always, always, always seek specific advice about your situation in your region or country where you are. What I did was ask my creative network for a question that they would love to ask a tax and finance specialist, and then I bundled them all up and took them to Matt Tucker, the principal of Creative Crunches here in Brisbane. Creative Crunches is an arts-focused accountancy firm. They know what they're talking about when it comes to Australian tax law, tax and finance for creative people. But again, general advice, always seek specific advice to your situation. Matt was super generous to donate his time. I cannot thank him enough for taking the time out of his day to actually sit and answer these questions for us all. So with that, let's dive in to today's question. What type of records should I be keeping for my tax, and what is the best way to keep them?
So there's no one way to skin a cat, as they say. You need to be in good habits for keeping everything. So sometimes that's going to be a written receipt. Sometimes that's going to be an invoice that gets emailed to you and you've got an electronic copy. We've got clients that are just hell-bent on keeping everything's electronic. Even if they've got a paper receipt, they'll scan it, they'll file it, they'll keep electronic folders, and that's great. We've got others that are the complete opposite. They'll get an emailed Telstra bill and they will print it out and they will file it in amongst all the other paperwork that they've got. Nothing wrong with that either. I know it doesn't save as many trees, but ultimately if you're in an audit, what the ATO is going to say is like, here's an expense in your tax return for mobile phone. Show us all of your phone bills and prove to us that your annual mobile phone cost is what you're telling us it is. So that's 12 monthly bills and proof that you've paid them. So, and then from there, it might be, and you've claimed that mobile phone at 40% business. Show us how you arrived at 40%. If your response is just like, oh, I think it's about 40%, it's just not good enough. They need something in terms of how you've actually arrived at 40%, which is like an extra log of use for a month. So it's not just about keeping receipts. It's also about keeping extra detailed logbooks and evidence where it's required. So cars are a great example. If you're going to go down the road of claiming your car via the logbook method, the logbook has to be there. The logbook itself has to be compliant. So there's an actual specific section of the Act which says a car logbook, according to the tax law, is this: a document which has all of these individual things, all of them, not half of them, not 9 out of 10 of them, all of them. And so one of the things we say to clients when they're embarking on the logbook, because we just see it, probably the number of people that really, really do take logbooks seriously and keep them legitimately is, 10%. The rest would either say it's valid or maybe do their best baked job, and it's just, they may as well not have done any of it because it's just not compliant, or the ones that just don't really have it at all and can never produce it, dog ate it, that sort of thing. So we've seen enough in the way of cases through the Administrative Appeals Tribunal where those logbook claims are struck off left, right and centre because those judges are the same. Show us the logbook. If it ticks all of the requirements in the Act, it is a logbook. But if it doesn't meet all of those things, then it actually isn't a logbook and it doesn't exist. And of course, the logbook is only one document. The rest of it is all the fuel, all rego, insurance, services, tyres, repairs, maintenance, cleaning. So in terms of substantiation, a car is a great example because it's not just a receipt for fuel. You've really got to be keeping proof of like the entire running cost of that vehicle over the year, and have a fully compliant logbook that shows it's clearly XYZ%, and that's how we've arrived at the claim, and it can be fully substantiated. Home office, it should be a floor plan, a detailed floor plan. I don't know how many floor plans I see where things are sort of measured out, and each wall is 4 meters by 2 meters, or 1 meter by, it's barely even that they'll put 1.5 meters, let alone 1.72. It's like the last time I did a floor plan of one of my share houses for, like a rehearsal space that I did, it was amazing how many walls are not 4 meters. I don't think I measured one even wall in the place. So I guess if you're going to fake that floor plan, just put some decimals and make it look at least like you've half tried. But the floor plan should be there. A copy of the lease should be kept. Maybe you want to just keep records of a copy of your bank statements to just evidence all of that annual rent coming through. Travelling, that's another big area. Travelling overseas especially, where you've got foreign, receipts that are not even in the English language, or foreign currencies. The onus is not just to have kept those receipts, but also to have taken the step of translating all of the foreign stuff into Australian dollars. There's a travel diary requirement. So, and the longer that you're away, the more the ATO would just naturally say, well, you're on holiday. I mean, if you want to put down your airfare and your accommodation and all of your transportation costs and meals and incidentals, then over a 2-month period, because you're out researching a book, that's fine. You've got to be able to really demonstrate to that auditor that this really is not just private. One of the examples that I always give to like attendees at seminars is when I was doing band work many years ago, we'd often go to music festivals, and it wasn't that I was seeking to claim the entire festival as a work or a musician, sole trader band expense. I had a good time at those festivals. Some of it was private, but definitely the reason for being there was definitely it had a business connection. So it was very important that I kept receipts for the tickets, the travel, the accommodation if it was away from Brisbane, meals and incidentals, because as soon as it's overnight travel, it's all of the meals that come in to play as well. At the festival, go and get a bite to eat. You're not going to go and harass the person at the food van for a receipt, but I still wanted to document that this money was actually spent. So it might just be $6.50, but there'd be a diary entry that was made. It's like, this day, this is where I was at, $6.50. It was a pie and a water. And that would be down there. The kilometres in the car would be down there, would be forming part of those logbook claims. Accommodation, I would make sure that I always booked that myself and not rely on other people, because it was just far easier for me to be in control of all the record keeping. So if I got some reimbursements from people, that's fine, but it was easier to get some cash reimbursements from people on the day, or a reimbursement into my account, than to be chasing up someone, can I please have a copy of the accommodation receipt? And then if the accommodation receipt is in someone else's name, it just, it makes substantiation harder and harder. So I would always make sure that my name was the one plastered over all of that paperwork. I would keep copies of the schedule, like the little tour itineraries, highlight some bits and pieces to who I was seeing. And to this day, if I was audited on any of those claims, I'd be able to, chew the ear off one of those auditors on all of those festivals that I went to and who I saw and what I gained from watching those performances. And at all times, I can also say back, sort of fall back on the fact, it's like, I'm not purporting to claim all this up front. I'm not claiming it 100%. I could probably argue 90 or 80% till I'm blue in the face, but, I'm only putting 50% through there, which is actually probably more generous to you as the tax office than it is to me. So I'm not being over the top. There's all the paperwork. A person who's going to, the Soundwave Festival to have a good time is not doing this.
Yeah.
it's not in their tax return and they haven't kept all of this documentation, and they might not even remember the day. you know.
There we go. Thanks again to Matt Tucker from Creative Crunches for taking the time to answer these questions. If you have a tax and finance question of your own that you would like to ask, please pop it in the comments below and I will do everything I can to get that answered, or link you to one of the other videos where it may already have been asked and answered. Also in the description below is a link to the playlist that contains all of these tax and finance questions, so you can dig through there and see if your question has already been answered. And of course, it would be fantastic if you could like this video, subscribe to the channel, but most importantly, if you got something of value out of this, there is a good chance you will know somebody else who can as well. Please share it with them, tag them in the comments, whatever you've got to do, pay it forward so that we can keep helping each other out. Thanks very much. I'll see you on the next one.